Hi, and welcome back to Continual Fandom. I'm your host, Jim Nettles, and tonight we're going to be wrangling a few, T-Rexes and Velociraptors and a few other critters as we go along the way as we dive into the latest episode of, Jurassic Park and the Lost World. So now that we're playing around in into the new world of rebirth, let's go around and see who else is coming and hatching in, from probably a dinosaur egg. Hey, Ken. So...
I predate the dinosaurs, thank you. I'm Ken Lange. I write science fiction, fantasy, and lit RPG. And I have to admit, this wasn't my favorite movie. We'll start it off with that note.
We have the curmudgeon vote. All right, so Nancy.
I'm Nancy Northcott. I write historical fantasy with and sometimes without romance, paranormal romance set in a swamp, not an island full of dinosaurs, and science fiction with Jeannie Adams. And this is the only movie in the Jurassic sequence I have seen.
Wayland?
I write under the name Wayland Smith. I call myself pan-authorial because it's funnier than multi-genre and sticks in people's heads better. Being a movie geek, I have seen all of the Jurassic Park movies.
So, being the Jurassic Park, it has become an iconic series. We kind of know what we're going to get, and dinosaurs are going to eat some people. We've got a pretty good bet on that. But coming into Rebirth, it's a lot like they're trying to reinvigorate the franchise. Again, I think when you're going to go with the name, at least we haven't had AVP Rebirth, but I just want to kind of have that idea of what did you guys think overall of the film? So, Ken, I'm going to throw this to you first. You can go give the curmudgeonly review of the movie.
So it's not just me. We were watching it. We started watching it last night, and Kim was like, "No." She didn't like the script. I didn't like the script. Some of the CGI was really bad, especially at night when they were trying to do the cliffs. And, it was, the actors did the best they could with the script they had. And that's the best thing I can say about it. That and the little bitty dinosaur that they had that was really cute for the little kid, that was awesome. But you had to go and open your mouth about the no alien rebirth, alien predator rebirth. They had one particular dinosaur in here who looked like the alien. Big round head. Oh, geez, it was bad. I mean, if this is the only movie you've ever seen, and I'm sorry for this, is that I saw the first one in the theater. You didn't know what was coming, and it was amazing. It was great. The practical effects are fantastic. They filmed it just an amazing way, and it still holds up today. But this one, not so much. And if this is the only one you've ever seen, you really missed out. And I told Kim, I said, I am sorry that you started watching this with me, because even if I was ever going to try to convince you to watch another Jurassic Park movie, you would never do it. You would never agree. And she has, because she's not seen any of them. And so, oh Lord, it was not my favorite for so many reasons. And like I was telling you before this started, the MacGuffin they use in there is the blood. And they say the blood isn't viable anywhere except for around the equator. But they're going to go take this blood that isn't viable anywhere else in the world and try to develop it into a drug for heart, some kind of heart research. And it's like, if it's not viable, why are you taking it somewhere else? It doesn't make sense. And then they're trying to make emotional connections, and it feels so shoehorned. Everything about it seems forced and bad and cheesy. And I'm sorry for Scarlett Johansson for having to be in it, because she's great. Actually, every actor in this movie is awesome. And I'm sorry they were subjected to the script.
So Nancy, since this was your one and only Jurassic Park so far, and you're starting at the bottom apparently, how'd you feel about it?
I actually kind of liked it. I'm not big on movies where things or people lurk in the darkness, the fog, the ocean, the bushes, the whatever, and then spring out and kill people. That's not my scene, which is one reason I've never seen any of the other ones. But as I was saying before we started, I loved Scarlett Johansson as the Black Widow, which is a portrayal I'm unlikely ever to see again. So when I saw that she was doing a tough chick role in this movie, and Bridgerton and Wicked and Stage Productions' Jonathan Bailey was in it, who I would, as I said earlier, and yes, I'm this shallow, I would pay to watch him read his grocery list. I thought, well, maybe I should go check this one out. And so I agree that things didn't always hang together. There's a scene, and spoiler alert, where they're shipwrecked on the dinosaur island, and one of the crew members is wrestling with a big package of something. And behind her, you see one of the large sail fin back dinosaurs, don't ask me what its name is, sliding into the water. Now, I have to think this made a little bit of noise. And I have to think if you were worried about dinosaurs being all around you, you might check that out before it pounced from the water and killed you. But hey, I didn't write it. So there were things like that. I don't really understand why the shipwrecked family was in there. There was one moment at the end where they became important to the overall plot, but other than that, I thought, are they stretching this movie? I didn't know. There was a lovely moment with Jonathan Bailey's character and a dinosaur, which kind of tied back into his only reason for going along on this dubious and definitely illegal mission, which was to have the chance of a lifetime to see a living dinosaur. So I liked it. My expectations were quite low because of the lurking and pouncing and destroying and ravaging thing, but I really liked it more than I thought I might, which I guess is damning with faint praise, but there you are.
So talking about living dinosaurs, so Wayland.
Wait. Well, first of all, I am a movie geek. If you put me in a big dark room with a thing of popcorn and a big screen, I'm generally a happy guy. So a lot of the times my critical brain disengages for some movies, and I did see this in the theater. I kind of enjoyed it. To refute Ken just a tiny bit, it was the dinosaurs can't live anywhere else, not the blood itself wasn't viable. So they were taking the blood and preserving it in a little magic briefcase thing, which, yes, is not a great difference, but it's a little bit of a difference. But apparently the magic briefcase preserves the blood samples or something. I don't know. I was saying before we started that I'm a very big fan of Ryan George's pitch meeting series, and his pitch meeting for this particular movie does a great job of poking holes in things. And actually, one of the things he did a couple of times was what Nancy was just saying, because there's one point where the producer character is saying, it seems like if you take that random family out of the movie, it would change absolutely nothing. And the scriptwriter says, hey, shut up. And then just keeps moving forward. The family did not need to be there. They did not serve much of a point. There were several times I thought they were going to do something really interesting with them, and really they kind of didn't. So that part was not as much for me, but it's Jurassic Park. It had Scarlett Johansson. It had, I'm going to butcher this name, and I am so sorry. Please do not at me later. Mahershala Ali, who is phenomenal in everything. And just that team up right there would make me go see the movie. It had your requisite evil, slimy CEO character like Paul Reiser played way back in Aliens. Or like the lawyer in the first Jurassic Park movie. So it was fun seeing him pop up and trying to figure out exactly how he was going to die brutally, because you know he was going to. I had fun with it. Was it the best movie ever? Absolutely not. Was it the best Jurassic Park movie? Absolutely not. But I thought it was at least entertaining.
Oh, can I add a note to what Wayland said?
Oh, sure.
The actor who played the dastardly corporate guy also played the dastardly Mr. Wickham in the Keira Knightley, Matthew McFadden version of Pride and Prejudice. And let's say his ending here was a little more appropriate than in that movie. I think
that's Rupert Friend, if I'm reading my IMDb page correctly.
I think you're right.
So now that we kind of have a mixed view, but knowing it's probably not the best in the series, but again, much like Wayland, I am a cinemaphile, right? If I'm going to disengage and sit down and watch a movie, either A, it's just got to be a tremendous amount of fun, and I'm going to go and straight up suspend my disbelief, and I'm willing to accept a few sins, or B, I'm going to be stripping it apart in terms of story and structure and all the other good stuff. So let's start with the end of let's have fun with it. So if we look at kind of this notion of MacGuffin and Rebirth. If we look at the story of Jurassic Family Robinson thrown on the island for no reason whatsoever, if we play with the notions of it's dinosaurs and they're going to be eating some folks, mostly because there has been, human hubris, we got to have a little bit of fun with it. So, Nancy, what were your thoughts on just kind of the big story?
I thought the big story with a little bit tighter execution would have been really believable. That we're letting these dinosaurs are still alive. They might as well be useful. Maybe they can solve some amazing diseases. And I like the conflict between Jonathan Bailey's character and Scarlett Johansson's character of, well, why do we have to give this to just rich people to get well? And she's like, well, if we don't give it to the rich people, I don't get paid. And so that was kind of an interesting dynamic in it. And I do have to confess that some of the time I was sitting there watching people with lurking dinosaurs and thinking, okay, you don't have star billing. So if this were a Star Trek movie, you'd probably be wearing a red shirt. And so I was a little distracted by that. But, I thought the story could have worked with a little fine tuning and the absence of stupid not noticing stuff.
Okay, I got to ask, what was your number one moment of what?
Mine?
Yes.
I think it was the sail thing on the beach and the woman, because when they were cruising along beside the ocean monster and Scarlett Johansson's trying to shoot it, and really, why, if you think you might possibly miss this moving object from this moving boat, why do you have the spare ammunition like 15 feet away on the deck? Why don't you have it handy so that Jonathan Bailey doesn't have to run and slide across the deck on his knees and then run back to you and fix it? Why don't you do that? So I was kind of engrossed. What?
Because it looked cool.
It did look cool. But so I was kind of engrossed with the initial encounter things. But by the time we got to the beach with the sailback dinosaur, and she's not paying it any attention, and I'm thinking, surely it's not just going to go about its dinosaur business in the water. And I guess conceivably it did, because its business appeared to be eating her.
Mm-hmm. All right, Wayland, what about you for the story, and what's your really moment?
The overall story, I'll go with what Nancy said. It could have worked with a little bit of, I don't know, maybe another pass with a slightly different writer or editor. I could believe the whole corporate people are going to try and scrape every last thing they can out of a resource that's already out there. And I certainly believe them going somewhere illegally that they shouldn't be in pursuit of the almighty dollar. No problem at all believing that. There were definitely parts of it that were a little weird. And I think my biggest what moment had to be, I'm sorry, I don't remember almost anyone's character names. Teenage daughter, I will inflate this giant raft with its big puffing sound next to the sleeping tyrannosaur. And I'm like, really? You don't want to move a little further away? Because I would move further away. And then I think following that immediately, and this is not really a giveaway since this is in at least several of the trailers, Tyrannosaurus Rex can swim now?
Well, that's what those alarms are for. They wear floaties.
Yeah, you would have to. So I guess that scene leading into the swimming scene, because both of them are just sort of like, huh?
All right, Ken, what about for you?
Besides the whole movie. So if it was a 2 hour and 20-minute movie, if they had shaved maybe about 30 to 45 minutes off of it and tightened up the script and did a few things, it would have been a lot better. Like they said, it had some great premises and great ideas, but it felt like they just wanted to extend it just because they could. And as far as the biggest what moment in there, like I said, besides the whole thing, so in one of the things they have to get a bird, pterodactyl type bird type thing, and they're going to go into its nest, and they're going to steal the blood from there. So why did they have to swing down off the top of the thing and go in when everybody else just went down the stairs and went in? I don't understand the concept. I mean, why are you going to risk life and limb to go over the side where you could fall to your death versus taking the stairs that were 10 feet away? I just don't get it.
Can I get in another rebuttal point?
Oh,
Sure.
yeah.
Did I miss
They haven't
it?
found the stairs yet. They found those like sort of by accident after the three of them had gone over the cliffside.
It was very by accident.
I think it was Corporate Putz was wandering around and found the staircase.
Yeah, I mean, you don't think that a bunch of trained security agents or whatever they're supposed to be, recovery agents, wouldn't have looked around for a minute?
Oh, they absolutely should have. I'm
I mean,
at that point
like I said,
100%.
it's just why. It's just so many why questions with the whole thing.
Oh, great.
If they just tightened it up just a little bit, I think it would have been fine. Look, if I'd seen it at the big screen, maybe I would have had a little bit different opinion. I watched it last night and this morning in bits and drabs because I just couldn't take it. But I knew I was going to be on here tonight, so I watched it. So it's just like it would have been a do not finish if I didn't have the panel this evening. I just would have went nope and walked off.
So I'm going to flip the script on this one. What was a fun moment for you, Wayland? Yeah, what was one of those things you looked at and you said, okay, this is classic Jurassic Park. This is the fun moment. I'm jumping on the water slide.
Actually, aside from the ammo issue that Nancy mentioned, the whole Scarlett Johansson shooting the one when they were out in the ocean still, I liked the scene. I liked the tension.
Yeah.
They could have done a better job with, I don't know, giving Scarlett like a harness or something so she didn't suddenly fall off into the water and become like Purina Shark Joe. But I thought that scene was done really nicely, and the sailbacks weren't even supposed to be there. They just sort of showed up later, and everyone was a little confused. I liked that, adding in the sailbacks, gave it like the growing, what do I want to say? The growing aura of menace of, okay, this is right here. We're going to show you already. We did not plan this outright. And while you know that going in because it's Jurassic Park, I thought that like upped the stakes very early, very well. So I'd probably say that scene, or Bailey's one great line, actually, when they're up in the nest, like Ken was talking about, when someone's like, do we have to get this from the egg? Couldn't we get it from the parent? He's like, well, we could, but the parent is what did he say, like a flying predator the size of an F-15. So I thought that was a good line and also an actual good point. I would rather mess with an egg than with a very hungry F-15.
Agreed.
All right, Ken, what was a good moment for you?
The one on the sea was really, really good. I enjoyed that one. The one where I really got on board, like I said, the best thing for me of the whole movie was the little bitty dinosaur with the kid. It was super cute. It purred. I don't know if you just saw this or not, but my cat just got in my lap a little while ago. So I was won over at that point. It's like, okay, I'm going to watch this for, And so that was probably the two best parts for me. Everything else, like I said, there were moments, and they did a good job of the mood lighting. You went from that to the super creepy campsite, the whatever it was, the research facility, and they did a really good job with the lighting and the scene change to make it feel more intense. So they did a good job with that. So
Nancy, since this is the first one you got to see, what was fun for you?
I thought it was an interesting premise that they were closing down the dinosaur museum because dinosaurs had become old hat. People had been exposed to living dinosaurs. They knew there were dinosaurs out there somewhere, so they didn't seem to feel a need to come to the museum anymore. Now, given the number of little kids of different generations I've met who love dinosaurs, I found that a little hard to swallow. But I also thought it was an interesting take on things, that people get used to things, they want the new hot thing, they move on. And I liked the dynamic between Scarlett Johansson and Jonathan Bailey, but also the dynamic between her and corporate guy. Because basically she was telling him, no, this is how we have to do it. This is how we're doing it. And she's the expert. Why wouldn't he let her tell him how they have to do it? But I will say, and if you're going to come to this in a few minutes, Jim, I'm sorry for jumping the gun. Why is it that in every jungle movie, the woman is in a sleeveless top and sometimes a bare midriff top, though fortunately not here, while the guys, as a rule, have sleeves. Just wanted to put that out there.
Don't forget the shorts. They usually get shorts too.
Yes, the shorts as well.
So.
Well, because that's proper jungle attire.
Um,
It's the same reason why in things like Fantastic Planet for everything else. The amoebas are going to dissolve the whatever the garments are strategically. So, all right. So, kind of looking at, and again, I want to dive a little bit deeper into the Jurassic Park sort of lore, right? The overall idea, this notion of, great, we're bringing back dinosaurs, right? We're playing with this right now, right? We're kind of, seeing how we can take a chicken and turn that chicken back into something that wants to eat us. Probably not quite as deep fried and crispy, but hey, we'll take it for what we can get. If we look at kind of the story, and Nancy, I know since this is your first introduction, but kind of this notion of, like Nancy was just saying, there's that notion of when things become old hat, right? It's gone from the hot new thing to all of a sudden every time you get on the ride at Jurassic Park, somebody loses their head, or becomes the bite. It's the snack basket, right? But at the same time, we're looking at these things culturally. So, Ken, looking at this and kind of looking at where we're at and this notion of, well, rebirth, what do you think in terms of the story? Why do you think we've gotten this story in terms of where we're at in the series?
Honestly, I think they're just trying to look for either a new reboot and maybe they may just be going for the straight to DVD where they're doing dinosaur human DNA. I'm not sure yet. Will be their next thing. But no, I honestly couldn't tell you where they're going to go from here. It's they're trying to. I mean, for most of the world, they're dying off, and if you unless of course you go looking for them, you're not going to find them. So I'm not sure where we can go from here. It almost felt like they're either going to try to shut this down, this particular series down, and start over again later, because they love to recycle. Keep from having to pay for a new IP. So if they completely feel like it almost felt like an ending for the current series. So that's kind of my thought process on it. I don't think they can really go much further with this storyline in this particular series. So I think the next thing they would do would be probably to restart it from scratch, like another Batman movie. So, or a Spider-Man movie. That kid's never going to get out of high school. That's kind of the way it looks like they're going to me. But I am an idiot when it comes to guessing what Hollywood's going to do next. Because I never thought we'd get this many Marvel movies. And it'd be nice if they stopped. I know I'm an odd man out on that, but I'd like to see something else, like a new IP of some sort come to fruition. But again, they have to pay for that, and they're not gonna. So,
got to take a chance. Nancy, what about you?
Well, as we've said, I haven't seen any of the others. I did kind of peek into them from time to time when the whole thing was like run in order on TV the week or the week before the movie came out. And it seemed like they did a couple of movies on the island, and then they brought dinosaurs to Los Angeles. And at that point, I was like, and went about my business. But I'm just wondering whether this could be a back to the beginning, echo what worked so well. If so, from what I've heard, the story in the first one was much better than the story in this one. So it's not a really good callback to the first one. But certainly it seemed like an ending for the dinosaurs at the end when they drove away. So if your dinosaurs are dying off, you don't have a lot of franchise left unless you're going to miraculously, as Ken said, do the whole thing over again.
Wayland?
I think part of it was they're just looking for another take on the story because, money, franchise, more money. I was really entertained watching some of the press tour for this, that like for as long as these Jurassic Park movies have been coming out, Scarlett Johansson really, really, really wanted to be in one. And she even approached the producers at one point. It's like, look, I'll be one of the people in the background who you see for 5 seconds get eaten by a dinosaur. I just really want to be in one of these movies. So I'm very happy for her that she got in. Why we got this particular story? Well, as far as believability elements go, is there anybody who is even remotely conscious of the news these days who thinks that a big company wouldn't do something unethical to get more money? Because that was a big part of the plot, and that was exactly what happened, and I could see it spinning out that way very easily.
Yeah.
I don't know where they're going to go from here, or if they're going to go from here. As far as what Nancy said about the first one having a better story, absolutely. The first one was based on a book written by Michael Crichton, who was a phenomenal storyteller. And Mr. Crichton has been dead for these many years, so he is certainly not contributing to the project any longer. So they're just playing reshuffle.
I was going to say, you never know if Hollywood's pulling out the Ouija boards.
That would be, that would be a story I would like to see or write.
Absolutely.
Actually, I am sort of writing something along those lines, but that's a whole other issue. But yeah, I think the corporate greed, and you had corporate greed guy on one side, you had really idealistic scientist on the other, and you had Scarlett Johansson, I guess, being sort of the great undecided in the middle of everything, and she kept going back and forth on yeah, we should give it to people, but I want to get paid. Which, I think probably everybody somewhere in there could relate to that conflict. Because yes, I would love to be doing absolutely generous deeds, and I would love to be helping society as a whole. But I still have a mortgage, which I would like to pay off. So, that has to guide some of my decisions.
Well, and I mean, again, the notion of the MacGuffin, right? This is one of those things that I do find interesting, and this is because this was core to Michael Crichton, and much of his good works and the storytelling were the harder science aspects to it and plausibility. Even though the notion of we're not going to get mosquito blood from a mosquito trapped in amber to revive a dinosaur, don't think it's going to hold together that well that long, but plausibility, right? He always gave a lot of plausibility to the science, to the technology for the setup. So, Nancy, what do you think about the plausibility of, okay, well, we're going to get the blood for whatever biological research?
It seems okay to me. I mean, people take blood for biological research now from people, from animals, so it's not outside the realm of something that could happen. I think to try to go get it from dinosaurs, you'd need people who are either going to be paid very well or suicidal, possibly both, but I don't see any problem with that as a plot point.
Wayland?
Well, as I said before, there's the whole corporate greed thing, which is very believable. And in the real world right now, outside of the movies that I am aware of, there is at least one program that has been working very quietly for many years trying to bring back woolly mammoths. And there is the more recent one that was supposedly bringing back dire wolves, which it isn't, but they're calling it that because it gets better press that way, especially when you drag George R. R. Martin into the mess, who'll do anything except write a book. But yeah, still getting anything for samples to make new drugs that they can exploit the hell out of to get more money, 100% believable.
Ken?
I agree with everything they said, and basically, they had no intention of paying these people. That was obvious, from the very beginning. But if they even thought there was a sliver of a chance that it would work and they could make a profit while sacrificing what they think is disposable people, absolutely 100% do it. As far as the actual science goes, I'm not sure how much reptile DNA and non-reptile DNA, humans and monkeys and so on and so forth mix well together. but it could be done. I mean, it's not the most far-fetched thing I've ever seen. I actually watched and liked Armageddon, so my scientific belief is totally suspended there.
Well, so let's say that we go with this notion of, Jurassic World, the Solarian hypothesis in the next round, right? This is where, lizard people come from. But just in playing with the story, is there anything you guys have, do want to say in some of the characters and the character play? Because again, that's, to me, a lot of the time, that's what makes or breaks it, right? I can forgive a lot of questionable special effects. I can forgive a lot of stuff, but I've got to at least have fun with the characters. Who wants that one?
I'll jump on that grenade first. What did you call them? The Jurassic Family Robinson?
Uh-huh.
They did a couple of good things with that, like the idiot boyfriend who at the start of the movie is very obviously a loser and an impediment to everything, and why is he there? They actually gave him a couple of decent scenes where he sort of redeemed himself, so that was nice to see. Scarlett Johansson's character very much had some regrets about stuff she'd done in the past, which, if you're in that line of work, is also very believable. Ali's character, they sort of touched on some tragic background for him, and then to me, at least, it seemed like they never quite paid it off. I almost wonder if a scene got cut somewhere that would have explained more of what happened with him. Corporate Slimy Dude was a corporate slimy dude and had no particular background or character, and I can believe that too with some of those folks that I've dealt with. So yeah, I thought the character work was good, and I will echo what Ken said back towards the beginning. I think a lot of very talented actors did the absolute best they could with what they got handed, and it was absolutely not the best of stories, and I would certainly never say that it was. But yeah, the character stuff I thought was at least somewhat believable.
Ken?
Well, I'm trying to find the guy's name here. He's the guy from Lincoln Lawyer. Let's see, what is his name? I don't know. Anyway, I like him in general. Not enough to learn his name, obviously, but he's not showing. Oh, here he is, Manuel Garcia Ruffalo. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Oh, yep.
Don't murder me later. But he's actually a really good actor. Like I said, everybody in this is amazing. And you take each one of the characters individually, and you've got really good plot points, which is why I said if they had executed the script a little better, you could have had some really great things. And I thought the same thing you did with the gentleman who had the child, Ali. I thought he had his scenes cut. It just felt like they had an overbloated movie and they decided to take that out. I would have rather seen that than some of the other stuff I did. And that goes for all of them. And it's, again, the corporate slimy dude is corporate slimy dude. And you just kind of rejoice. The whole movie, you're waiting for him to die. And when he does, it's like, finally. And you just move on with your day. It's like, it's fulfilling in a way to have him die. As far as everybody else, like I said, individually, they're great. The script did not marry them well together. That's the best thing I can say about it.
Nancy, you're on mute.
Sorry, we had a husband returning dog enthusiasm reaction here, and I was trying not to share that with everybody.
So in other words, we had the most enthusiastic reaction out of the entire movie. Oh, wait.
With the dog in the living room, yes. So I thought that the main reason the shipwrecked family was in there was because the Ali character had lost a child. There's a point in there where things are getting hairy toward the end, and he promises her he will not let anything hurt her. And then he sacrifices himself to get the boat away. And so to me, that was a through line of character connections. And even though he didn't actually sacrifice himself, which I was glad about because I liked the character, but he was willing to, and he went out to do that. And so I still think they could have done that without having quite so much of the family in there, more intrepid explorers and a little less struggling family to, and they say, we're going to follow the pipes to the city. Well, that's fine, but it's a pipe. How do you know whether it's headed toward the city or away from the city? Because you don't know. You're just going to walk beside the pipe and see where it takes you. It's not necessarily going to take you to the city. So I thought I would agree with what everybody said about the characters and doing the best they could with what they had. And there were some really nice moments in there. But as I've been babbling on and talking about the dog and so forth and so on, I've totally lost the plot. So I think I'm just going to stop now and let someone else talk.
Well, that sounds like it was just the whole theme of the movie. But all right, I think we've kind of picked on Jurassic Park Rebirth a little bit, but is there anything else you guys think we need to talk about with the film?
I actually am a franchise fan. I enjoy when franchises keep turning out at least decent stuff. And honestly, I could see this being potentially the last one, unless they go for a complete reboot back to the beginning. I'm not sure where they would go from here. I'm not sure where they can go from here that makes any sense with the world building that they have done. Unless there's yet another undiscovered island down there somewhere with something else they need, which I suppose is always possible. But I could potentially see this being the last one, which is not something I'm rooting for, but I could see it happening.
Can I complain about something at the end?
Absolutely.
They made a big deal when they were going down to the island about having to figure out where the giant swimming monster was, partly because they needed its blood and partly because they didn't want it to eat them. When they're leaving the island in a much smaller boat and they're going through the ocean, nothing is said about, I hope those sail-fin dinosaurs aren't lurking out here, or if we have a sail-fin dinosaur out here, maybe the big one is here because this is, after all, its home water. And it would have been nice to have somebody just address that. Because, I'm willing to accept anything reasonable, but I want it acknowledged.
Well, those dinosaurs don't work at night.
Oh, that must
be in their contract.
That must be it, because the sun was setting as
they were taking off in the dark, so the flare stood out so well. So it's in their contract. They don't do night shoots.
Yeah, good point.
And that would have been the moment I'd have been like, can't we do a Jaws scene here,
They showed the preview for the 50th anniversary of Jaws in the theater when I saw this movie.
See,
Things lurking and pouncing.
Ken?
So remind me exactly what the question is, because I know we've gone off a little bit of a tangent here.
That's the question. What tangent do you have left for the film?
Other than I didn't like it. I think I've said that a few times. No, actually, as a whole, it wasn't the worst movie I've ever seen. That would be Signs. But, but I mean, seriously, an alien race that can go across the universe but doesn't decide to stop on Earth because it's got water on it, it's going to kill them. It doesn't make any sense. But that's a different story. But as far as this goes, like I said, I think this was a way to put it to bed so they can either revive it or... Because I think everything from here, if you try to do anything from this movie on, it's kind of a straight to DVD type thing that we used to have in the 80s and 90s, where you had, it's just going to be that kind of thing.
Now it's just straight to streaming.
That would be a very big insult to the franchise, the fans of it, and to the memory of the man who wrote it. And why are you guys fighting? So I have my own little dinosaurs over here, I guess, going after each other. So I'm sorry. But yeah, I think that this would have to be the end if they don't want to insult everybody.
Well, I think before we put this one out to the Mesozoic era, let's make sure everybody knows where to find you guys. Website, social media, that latest release, or, whatever dinosaur you want to tell them about. So, Ken, you're up first.
Well, you can find me at kenlangeauthor.com. That's KenLenge. You have to have the E or you get somebody very different. And you can find me on Facebook, all the Amazon, and all the other booksellers as well. And usually on Facebook half the time. So that's all I got.
Nancy?
My website is nancynorthcott.com. I'm Nancy Northcott on almost all social media. I no longer post on X. I am on Blue Sky. And if you go to my website, it has links to everything except Blue Sky because they don't make a ready-made icon for that, and I don't know how to create one. My next release will be The Speaker for All, which is a novel in the Outcast Station science fiction series that I write with Jeannie Adams, and it'll be out later this fall.
Wayland?
WaylandSmithAuthor.com is my own website. I review all comic book based movies and TV shows and some books for a site called comicbookclog.com. I didn't name it, I just work there. I am some version of Wayland Smith on all of the socials. I also no longer post on Twitter/X. I'm on Facebook, Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram when I remember I have an Instagram, which is not all that often. And I am part of a new project which you can look up at crowdedshelf.com.
And you can find me at jamespnettles.com, authoressentialsworkshops.com, creatingpros.com, and of course here at Continual. And we will see you again soon, as I'm going to go try to figure out how to make human dinosaur hybrids. Let's go see how this is going to work.